Welcome to Real Talk with Reginald D. I'm your host, Reginald D. On today's episode, I have Tony St. Tone. Tony is an award-winning singer, songwriter, musician, and motivational speaker. Tony's mission is to motivate, empower, and inspire and uplift people with his music. His unique approach to songwriting blends pop, rock, rap, and country to create what he calls positive pop rock. Tony has performed 7,000 shows worldwide. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, Tony, let's start out by telling us a little bit about where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
I grew up in Hamden, Connecticut, which is right next to New Haven, Connecticut, where Yale is from. My parents both came over from Italy, so they came literally right off the boat. I'm the youngest of three. I have an older brother and sister. I started playing music when my sister wanted to take guitar lessons at college and didn't want to go alone. At the time, I was playing trumpet for about 3 months. And I came to my dad and I said, listen, I really like this guitar thing. I want to do it. And he says, well, that's great, but I just paid for a trumpet. If you want to play guitar, you're going to have to pay for it, which was an incredible lesson for me. So I literally started a paper route and I saved up enough money, which was $35 to buy a guitar, it's off in the corner here. I still have it. But that started me on my career route, if you will. And I've been playing over 40 years and I've traveled around the world playing. So it was the right choice.
Yeah, I see. Because, Tony, 7,000 shows across the world, that's a lifetime on stage. What have those miles and melodies taught you about perseverance, purpose, and people?
You know, I've always been very goal-oriented, and just even from the very beginning, I started writing songs and I was like, wow, how cool it would be to play in a bar, because that was like, that's where all the shows were back then. So I did that, and then it says, how cool would it be to open up for a national act? And then I did that. Then I says, oh, it'd be really awesome if I could put an album out, and then I did that. So I've always set myself up with goals, and then I've always been laser focused on trying to achieve that goal. And even to this day, I still do that.
So how do you blend music and positive affirmations to create songs that both entertain and empower?
So back in about 2001, I think it was, I had already been listening to a lot of Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, all these different motivational speakers. And something hit me like, what if I try to put some of these messages into songs? Because it's something that's very powerful. And I just started playing with it. And next thing you know, I started emerging in what's called positive pop rock. Just songs just had messages. It was non-denominational, but yet still carries a positive message. So it's best is yet to come, breaking all the rules that were meant to be broken, reinvent your life. I'm a magnet for money. Just different positive affirmations I put them in these pop formats so people can hear it. And when they're singing, it reinforces positivity with them.
I'm going to tell you what, breaking all the rules, that's my jam there.
Okay, so you got a chance to listen to it. Awesome.
Oh, yeah, I like that. So you performed for everyone from U.S. troops overseas to inmates in prison and seniors in nursing homes. Can you share a story from one of those moments that deeply moved you?
So, God, there's so many. I'll give you a couple. We've done shows at nursing homes where people are catatonic, where they don't move. And I'll go in and start performing, and they'll start tapping their toe or their finger. And I've seen nurses break down and cry because they're like, that's Mr. Johnson. I've never seen him even move, let alone talk. And yet here he is tapping his finger to you because it approaches a different part of the brain. Music just has a way to transcend different levels of consciousness or just different levels altogether. I call it the universal language. Another inspiring story for me was we were doing a show in Kuwait in a place called Tent City, which was 600 troops in the middle of a desert. And it was all tents. They put us on a flatbed truck. And this girl was there that I met after the show. And she says, I really got to tell you something. I says, oh, what's up? She goes, I was in my tent tonight. I didn't want to come out. A friend came out and she goes, you got to come out tonight. There's a band. And she goes, I had a fake bottle of champagne. It was my 1-year anniversary with my husband who was not here. And I just didn't want to come out. And she goes, and next you know, I came out and I was stage diving with everyone else because we all ended up stage diving at one point. And that's a whole nother story. But fast forward 20 years and I'm playing in Sarasota at a club. And this girl walks up to me. She goes, do you remember me? And I said, no. She goes, I'm Lisa. I'm like, okay, Lisa. She goes, you played in Kuwait at Tent City. I was like, oh my God. Okay. And she goes, yeah. She goes, you signed the poster and you drew a picture of a person, stage diving. And she Later on, when she got home, she sent me a picture of the poster. So she held on to this poster for 20 years from that time. So she goes, you have no idea what that meant to me. And I was like, wow. So, you really don't know how you're touching anyone. So when that comes back around, especially 20 years later, it's an amazing feeling.
Oh yeah, man, that's remarkable. God, man, that is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It totally, I was like, you still have the poster? She goes, yeah. And all of a sudden she shows me the poster and there's my little drawing and signed it. I said, keep on flying, because it was the first time she ever jumped off of the stage.
Wow, man, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So, Tony, when did you realize that your guitar and your gift could be used for something bigger than the stage?
I always knew that music was powerful, even as a young kid. I mean, I absorbed it. I always listened to it. My mom always sang around the house, cleaning, like an Italian mom would. But I didn't realize that I had a gift for singing until I actually started it. But, when you start seeing people react and just dancing and moving and having a good time, and then you take it further when you start doing shows, like I said, at the nursing homes, or if I do these shows at jails or halfway houses, the songs become bigger than you and the message becomes bigger than you. So what I've evolved into is a show called Energize Your Vibes, which is half motivational speaking and half original music. So I'll go in there and we'll use Breaking All the Rules, for example. I'll talk about people in history that have done amazing things. And I'll use that story and I'll couple it with other stories or personal stories. And then I'll go into the song, because the way I intro that particular song is I say, if you think you can, if you think you can't, you're 100% correct. So where's your mindset? Where are you putting your focus? So that's the whole thought of that. So for me, I realized quickly that music is so powerful. And now I've been able to harness it in even more with these types of shows.
Yes, absolutely. And your nonprofit, the Spirit of Music Foundation,
Yeah.
you bring live shows to those who can't afford it, which is remarkable, man. Can you tell us a little bit about your nonprofit and how it brings hope and healing through music?
Sure. So, as I just mentioned, we do shows at boys and girls clubs, nursing homes. A lot of the nursing homes don't have music. Some have music once a month, some don't have it at all. So, just going into that and watching people light up is amazing. When we do shows at the jails and or at the halfway houses, that's a whole nother level, because that's when we're actually going in with the original material and really going in with a message of hope and a message of, stay positive, you can do this. I've done shows when I used to live in Los Angeles where it started. I've done shows there and I've met people outside of jail and they'll look at me like, I remember you. And I'm like, okay. They're like, you came when I was in jail. They're like, you have no idea what that was like. I mean, we never got entertainment, but then you had this message. So, God, we played a show, and I tell people this a lot. I've done over 7,000 shows, and one of the top 3 shows was at the Women's LA County Jail, because there was 200 women in there who were so ready for something positive and something uplifting, and they screamed so loud. I felt like we were the Beatles at Shea Stadium. It was like an overwhelming feeling of energy that came towards us. It was so big that we started playing and I missed my cue. We all took a step back and I was like, we all looked at each other like, what is this? Because we just never felt that kind of wave of energy. And then I, settled in like, okay, we're here to do a show. But at the end of the show, people were laughing, crying. Can you sign this? Can you sign that? It was just a very emotional and uplifting thing. And I remember the guard saying, we've never seen anything like this. But they usually bring in 4-piece quartets that are just playing classical music or jazz. So for us, it was like, again, a message and a meaning with uplifting music. So it combined a lot of things. And since I write in different styles, if I write in pop, country, rock, some rap, there was a little something for everyone. So it's basically throwing a big net out there. And, you're going to start snagging people. And I always say this during these shows. I say, listen, guys, it's not about the actual song and as far as the style that you're into or not, but listen to the message. And they get it because I'm able to talk before each song.
Wow, and this game changer too.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Totally.
So, Tony, you shared the stage with some major acts like Foreigner, Kansas Blues Traveler. What lessons have you taken away from performing with those legends?
God, it's a mixed one, to be honest with you. Sometimes, that they always say, whatever goes up must come down. And they're like, if you're polite to people on the way up, you better be polite to them on the way down. And some of these guys were on their way up, and some of these guys were on their way down. Some were really incredible to work with. And I was just honored to be on a stage or share a stage with them. Others had large egos, and I was like, wow. I remember we did a show with Jefferson Starship, and it wasn't necessarily them, but it was their road crew. They had set up a box between me and my guitar player with a candle on it. I says, hey guys, can we just move this? Because, we have like no room. We're opening up. The guy goes, nothing moves from the stage. And I was like, wow, really? It's a box with a candle. We're not sound checking it. It's a prop. But, they get that way because they're like, we're Jefferson Starship. And it wasn't the actual band, but it was their crew. So I go, okay, you just got to live up to it and go, okay. But it's always been an amazing thing. I've done over 30 different national acts, and they've all had different situations, and they all have had their own little thing. But I could say that, always act professional. Again, with that box and that candle, I could have said a lot of things. I just went, okay, and smiled. And that's what you do. You just roll with the punches. So I think the main thing is just go with it. Be thankful that you are where you are and understand that there's a lot of egos in there. You just have to understand that. I think that's the best way to answer that question.
Right, exactly. Because a lot of times some things are just too big for some people.
Yeah,
So that's one of those situations. They could have easily moved it.
exactly.
But it's just like you say, ego, man, ego.
Yeah, yeah.
So you had the honor of performing at the 2009 inaugural ball for President Obama.
Yes.
What was that experience like for you?
So that was incredible. I'll give you a quick story. My wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, was interested in joining the band. And she says, I can get you guys different shows. And I said, well, I've never had a girl in the band. It was like, boys only club. And that's just because every band that I've ever listened to was more like an all male band. So I said, well, all right, why don't you try to get us a show? So the first show she got us was the Albuquerque Balloon Festival. I was like, oh, wow, that was pretty great. We flew from Connecticut to New Mexico to do that. And then she goes, oh, I'm going to get the inaugural ball for President Obama. And we're like, there's no way you're going to do that. That's insane. He's the first black president. It was 2009, his first term. I'm like, there's no way. And everyone said, she was like, you're crazy. It's it's an impossible thing. Well, about 250 calls later, she got us the gig. And we actually got phone calls from, I think it was the management from Kool and the Gang, and said, who are you? And where are you from? We've never heard of you. And she's like, well, we're St. Tone and we're playing. She's like, well, we want that slot. I'm like, well, that's nice, but we already got it. So yeah, it was just an incredible experience. And, talk about a feather in your cap. It's one of those things that you're like, there's not too many people that can say they did that. I'd say it that way. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just an incredible experience. I remember it being extremely cold there, coming from Florida, especially. We're like, oh my God, it's so cold here in Washington. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So who has inspired you the most as a performer and as a person?
Growing up, I listened to the Beatles, Billy Joel, a lot of different acts. Interesting enough, I got a chance to meet Billy Joel at one point, and it's a really interesting story, but I was at the Songwriters Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which is a big dinner where they induct people into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, just like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So he just happened to be in the urinal next to me in the men's room. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Billy Joel right next to me. And here's a guy that I have every album by. And I go, I don't want to say anything stupid to him. So I just go, hey, I got a funny story for you. And he goes, yeah, what's that? I says, the guy who tunes your piano tunes my piano. Because this guy that had been tuning my piano kept saying that he tuned Billy Joel's piano. So I just threw it out there and he goes, oh yeah, no shit. The guy from Connecticut? And I go, yeah. So it was true. So I was like, oh, this guy wasn't lying. So I just had this brief conversation. I says, hey, listen, I just got to tell you, I'm a huge fan. And I've listened to your stuff, my entire life. And he goes, oh, that's great. He goes, I'm doing some classical stuff right now, but hey, thanks anyway. So I go back to the table and I tell my friends, and a friend of mine goes, yeah, wow, you went to the men's room. I'm going to go to the men's room to see who I can meet. I'm like, okay, just kidding around. And he comes back and he goes, you met Billy Joel? He goes, I met the three brothers from Hanson. And I went, oh, okay. I guess I won that little battle, if you will. And at that same performance, nobody knew it, but Brian Wilson was being inducted to the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And Paul McCartney was there, but he was a secret, meaning that nobody knew that he was there. Now, at the time, you got to imagine this huge, huge hall where I paid $400 a seat, but the people in the front row paid $25,000 a seat to sit there. And here comes Paul McCartney, and the whole place erupts because they were doing the ceremony before the dinner. And my wife at the time just goes, go up there, go up there, go up there, because he was coming off of the pew. And he's waving at everyone like, hey, yeah, and they're sort of, and I literally froze like a 5-year-old little boy. I could not go up to him. And I was like, what am I going to say to this guy? Everyone else is losing their mind. And these are people who are in the industry and that worked with him. And they're blown away. So I didn't know what to do. But I mean, it was an incredible night. So to answer your question, there's so many musicians that have inspired me through the years. The Beatles, The Doors, Billy Joel, U2, Elton John. I mean, they're just, I love all styles of music. So there's just too many to actually hone into just one.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's tough. So, what role, Tony, has faith and spirituality played in your music and your resilience as an artist?
So a lot of my music gets downloaded. And what I mean by downloaded is I'll wake up in the morning with a song in my head fully produced and I'm singing it to myself. And I literally have to get out of bed and either grab a phone and sing it into the phone. Or if I'm working on a lyric, I'll literally write the whole lyric out. Like about 3 months ago, I wrote a song about some dads. Some dads do this and some dads do that. And I'm like, where did this come from? I'm like, I don't know. And then in other times, I do things called scat singing, where I just pick up the guitar and I'm strumming chords. And when you scat sing, you're basically just singing words that quickly rhyme. And I've done songs like that where I've written almost like a complete song without only making a couple minor changes on the first take. And I'll listen back to this recording and I go, wow, where did that come from? Because I didn't consciously think of it. I'm just playing the chords and I'm just singing. So I'm in this little zone, if you will, of just allowing it to happen. And I find when I do my songwriting, that's the best way to do it. It's almost like a hands-off type of thing. Just be the scribe, if you will, and lyrics come to me. Other times I'll take a song and I'll go, Mama said we could work it out if we want to. And I kept singing that. I'm like, okay, well then what is it that Mama said? Well, Mama said we could work it out. And it was about win-win situations and compromise. So the song evolved into that. But where did Mama said come from? I don't know. It just happened. So I don't overanalyze it. I try to just take it, accept it, and then I just mold it if I need to. But a lot of times it's already pre-written and I'm just going with the flow.
Man, Tony, that's a gift, man.
Yeah, oh, totally. Listen, I know it's a gift, and that's why I remember hearing an article about Michael Jackson saying he sees songs over his head. He would feel or see songs, and he would say, "If I don't grab it, they're going to give it to Prince, so I need to get it." And I'm like, "Wow!" So he was feeling like these were, I don't know, like little particles going past. Like I need to grab this because it's on its way to Prince, and if I don't snag it, Prince is going to get it.
Yep,
Yeah, and I think Prince got some too.
absolutely. So, Tony, I want you to finish this sentence. Music is.
Universal. A universal, unbelievable, transformative, love. Yeah. I mean, that sentence could be a run-on sentence very easily. You just keep going. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Music is
Yeah.
the most powerful thing we have. I
Yeah.
mean, all the way
It's
down from a baby, you can put music on, make the baby quit crying.
exactly because it's vibrational energy. And, if you're listening to, think of, and this is something that I do with my songs just as of being conscious of it. If you keep repeating something, words have power. So now words with rhythm have even more power because it could set you in a certain trance or a certain state. So when I perform the songs at the Energize Your Vibe show, I keep that in mind. So it's like, hey, I'm talking about breaking all the rules that were meant to be broken. And I'm giving you guys all these different subject matters, of people that have transformed themselves and have done things that society didn't think was possible or their parents didn't think was possible. And now I'm presenting a song and I'm trying to give it a vibrational setting. When they hear that song again, it's like, oh, wow, that's that song. I did this thing at one of the jails, and I talk about it's the rat story, as I call it. So a couple of scientists had in the 50s wanted to see how long a rat can swim. So they grabbed like a bunch of rats, put them in the water, and they roughly, within 15 minutes, they started drowning, and they pulled them all out of the water. So the assistant quickly said, hey, you know what? Let's just throw them back in the water, see how long they last. Well, to their surprise, they swam for 60 hours. They just kept swimming and kept swimming and kept swimming because At the end, they thought, well, the rat just thought it had to swim long enough until someone plucked it out. But they outdid their performance from 15 minutes to 60 hours. I says, now that's a rat. So what do you think you can do? And what do you think you're really capable of? So I plant that seed. I'm like, here's a rat that was able to do something from 15 minutes to 60 hours. So where's your line? You think you only can do this, but you really have more ability than you realize. And I told that story. And about 6 months later, I went back to the jail and I was back in one of the pods where these guys were. This guy comes up and he goes, oh my God, I can't believe you're here. And I go, oh, hi, what's up? And he goes, you were here 6 months ago. And literally 2 days ago, I was telling a new inmate that story that you told about the rats. I'm like, wow, okay. So it's like, again, you don't realize what type of effect you have on people. That stuck with him enough for him to share it and move it forward. So when you can plant seeds, they start to grow and they germinate and they plant other seeds. So yeah.
Yep, that's it, man. You never know when you have that moment with somebody or you take the time with somebody. That's the big key. Take
Yeah.
that second to listen, whatever you could do to help or respond. You never know how far that would take.
Yeah.
You-
Yeah.
That person, like you said, to the next person, and things like that. That's how it all works. That's
Absolutely.
how music is.
Yes. Yes. That's the whole thing. It's like, you don't know what that person's going through and how that song affected them. I've had people come up to me and go like, wow, that song Empower Me really helped me through my divorce. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it wasn't written with that intention, but it's called Empower Me. So it's a self-empowerment song. And they took it and used it in that way. So I go, okay, well, listen, however you can use it, by all means, it's there, take
Exactly.
it. Yeah.
Exactly. So, Tony, when it's all said and done, how do you want people to describe the impact of Tony St. Tone, the man behind the music?
To continually follow what inspires you in your dreams, whatever your desires are, to go for it. Like my desire was to play music full time. And I had a father who wasn't really keen on that. He didn't approve of it, if you will. He just thought he didn't understand it. He came over from Italy and worked in a sheet metal factory for, I don't know, like 60 years. And he'd always say to me, you need to get a real job. You want to do this music thing. And I says, well, no, I want to play full time. So he constantly fueled my fire, if you will. And at one point, I'm just going to share the story with you. At one point, I had written these 2 jingles for Subway restaurants, and I had a check for $16,000. And I says, I'm going to show him this check, and that's going to change his whole mindset of what I'm about and what I can do. So in my mind, I thought I was going to get hugs and cheers and all this stuff. So I show him, and he goes, well, you can't do that every day. And I went, wow, okay. And at that point, I realized I no longer have to prove it to you. You served your purpose for me, and your purpose was to fuel my fire, to keep me going, and to really keep my drive going. I said, but now I don't need to try to prove it to you any longer. So I put them aside. My point being is, from there, I moved to Florida to play music full time. I could play 7 days a week, 3 times a day, where in Connecticut, I didn't have that ability. So whatever you want to do, there's a possibility to do it. And there's success leaves clues. Depending on what you want to do, success leaves clues. But I also say you might be that person who's going to be setting the example for everyone else. So in a song like Reinvent Your Life, I talk about this woman, Grandma Moses, who started painting at the age of 75, lived to be 103 or something, and she painted 3,500 paintings. And one of her paintings ended up in the Smithsonian Museum of Art and sold for $1.4 million. This is a woman that started at 75 because she couldn't crochet anymore, so she started painting with no training. So what are you doing? What are you waiting for? You're not too old. You're not too smart enough. Whatever it is, go for it. That's what I want to be. I want to be that guy who says, hey, go for it. And I also say this, there's a song I use called Turn Yourself Around. Sometimes you exhaust all of your energy trying to convince someone of something. But if you're on FM and they're on AM, they're 2 different wavelengths and you're never going to get to them. So I say, take that energy and use it upon yourself and lead by example. And you're like, oh, how are you getting all those shows? Or how did you do this? It's like, well, now I'll tell you now that you're interested. But if I'm trying to spend all my time trying to convince you, I'm not booking all those shows. I'm not doing all the things that I want to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
with everything you said, at the end of the day, it's sacrifice.
Yeah. And
Like
how
you
bad do you
packed
want it?
up, like you packed up and moved to Florida. Like, hey man, this is the only way I'm gonna get this done. I got to
Yes.
leave. I got to leave. So if you
Yeah.
didn't take that sacrifice, then you probably wouldn't have turned out the way it is.
No, and let me tell you, I had a lot of resistance from friends and family because they were projecting their fears onto me. Like, how are you going to do it? You don't have, or do you have gigs yet? No. But how are you going to do it? I'm like, I don't know. And I would just say, I'm going to play full time. I wouldn't give them the opportunity to get into my head because then I would start doubting myself. Now, in the meantime, they were doubting themselves. They're like, well, if he's doing it, that means that I could do it, but I don't have the courage to. So I'd rather have him stay here with me. So let's both stay here in Connecticut where we only play 2 to 3 times a week and it's cold. I'm like, no, because they would say it's hot in Florida and there's old people there. I'm like, well, it's cold in Connecticut and there's old people here. So, and oddly enough, this is even crazier. When I went, I had just bought a house. I had a house for about a year. And my uncle, who's a real estate agent, says, you want to move, huh? And I says, yeah. He goes, okay. He goes, we could work something out where your second house, we'll call it a vacation home. And he goes, and rent the first house. So my wife and I literally moved to Florida with no jobs and 2 houses. And people are like, you're insane. How are you going to do this? I'm like, we're just going to do it. They're like, my dad would say, everybody I tell what you're doing, they think you're crazy. And I says, Dad, just, trust me. And within 2 months, I think it was like within 2 months, I was playing full time.
Wow,
Took me about 2 months to get established. Yeah. Yeah.
you're breaking all the rules, man.
Yeah. Listen, that's meant to be
Everybody
broken.
calling you crazy, man. You're breaking the rules.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
awesome.
want to be that exception, right?
Right, right. But that's awesome, Tony. That's awesome. So, in one word, how would you describe your purpose?
The first word that came to me was motivate, motivate. Yeah. Or inspire might be a better word. I think inspire would be the word.
Yes.
Inspire. I love inspiring people to do whatever they want to do. You know, like I know how I achieved what I set out to achieve. But how can you do what you're looking to do? And if you need someone to be that person to constantly cause you and give you that push, I'll be that person. But you might think I'm annoying after a while. Like, oh, weren't you the one who said you wanted to lose weight? Weren't you the one who said you want to learn how to swim or whatever it is? I'll keep bringing it up if you want me to. See, I used my dad to fuel my fire. Every time he said negative things about it, that just got me more angry, more persistent about following through, making those extra phone calls, practicing a little bit more, whatever it was. So you gave me more of that drive. And you need that fire because, if you don't have that, and I say that and when I do the shows in the jails and at the halfway houses, I'm like, listen, you guys are learning things on a different level and you might not be able to hang out with the people you used to hang out with. Because if you hang out in a barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. Same thing with a tattoo shop. You're going to end up with a tattoo. So if you hang out with guys that are, robbing people or mugging people, you're going to end up robbing someone or mugging someone. You're going to end up back in jail. You need to distance yourself from that now that you know that you have an opportunity to make a difference. We all sort of start at different levels, but we all make choices. So it's like, where are we going? Some start from the bottom, go to the top, and some start at the top and go to the bottom. Right? So,
Yep, that's it. It's all about how you handle life, man. It's all
yeah,
about how you handle life. And the one thing, in speaking with you, and what sticks out to me is, you know, we all have this one life to live, right?
right.
Why don't we go do what we love to do, and what we have a gift to do,
Yes.
instead of keeping ourselves in a box, and just doing the day to day thing that you really don't like, but you got to do it because you got to make some money here and there. But you got to understand that, your gift will make room for you.
Yeah.
It'll open up doors bigger than anything. And I think people should learn how to live more freely in life and in what they want out of their life.
Yes. Yes. And once you nail down what you want, you know, there's going to be some twists and turns and stuff. And that's when you're going to be asked to say, how bad do you want it? Are you willing to move out of state? Are you willing to give up that job? Are you willing to play, at this place that you don't care for, but you know that you're going to get paid? So it's, listen, I'd rather play a show there than work at Subway restaurants. I don't know, that's like, there are sacrifices involved. It's not going to get handed to you. But let me just tell you, the reward is that much more fulfilling. when you've had to work for it. If I handed you a trophy says world's greatest dad, you're like, okay, thanks. I'm not even a dad. You're like, yeah, but I just thought I'd give it to you. But if you were a father of 6 and someone gave it to you, your kid gave it to you, then you're like, wow, thank you. So I've always believed that, yeah, you got to work for it, or you at least open up the space for it to happen and believe that it can happen also. I'll tell you, the motivation came, I had taken this course called Doing Music and Nothing Else. And it was a 3-day seminar, and I was in the band at the time, and they said, Tone, you should go. Because I was the one that was always so driven. I was the one doing everything. They're like, you should take this course. And the guy was the one who told me about Zig Ziglar's 6 cassette tapes and a booklet. I'm not sure if you remember those. You'd get 6 cassettes in a booklet. And I ordered the Zig Ziglar one, and it really just blew my mind. And the guy said, he goes, you're entering one of the hardest businesses there is out there, and you're going to need motivation. And he goes, so I highly recommend that you start listening to motivational speakers, because that's going to keep you fired up when everything is going wrong. And I took that to heart. And I went, okay. And that just helped move me forward.
Man, that's awesome, Tony.
Yeah.
But Tony, lastly, how can people connect with you, your nonprofit, and follow your journey?
So if you go to my website, www.sainttone.com, SAINTTONE, there is a mailing list. I only put out 1 email a month, so I don't spam you, because I don't have the time to do it. And plus, I wouldn't want that. Also, you can see where I'm playing, because I perform here in Florida, but I also travel a lot. We did 2 tours of England this past year and Ireland. We're going to be back there again in April. I've done shows in Connecticut and California. So, there's different places that I travel. So depending on where you live, and if you want me to come play in a place where you live, then let's talk, because I do that quite often also. People always ask, do you travel? I'm like, yes, I do. I travel a lot. So yeah, I would say the main website is the main thing. I'm on all social media. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. So I'm on all the streaming platforms as well. So I have over 18 CDs out. I'm always putting out new music. I'm in the process right now. My last email I sent out, I have about 12 songs that are partially produced, and I'm asking people to see who wants to help me pick my next single. So what I'm going to do is send you 3 songs. Tell me which one you like the best. I'm going to just narrow it down and go, okay, majority seems to like this song. Because when you write a song, you're always so personally attached to it for different reasons. But it's the common listener who goes, I don't know why I like it. I just like it. They don't analyze it. Musicians analyze the heck out of it. Is it the beat? Is it the bass? Is it the words? They just go, I like it. I don't like it. So yeah, I'm putting that opportunity out to people too that are on my email list.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. There you have it. Tony St. Tone. Tony, thank you so much, man, for stopping by and hanging out with us for a minute.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for listening to Real Talk with Reginald D. If you enjoyed listening to Real Talk with Reginald D, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts. See you next time.